Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6:10 on May 17th, 2021. Time to call the city council meeting to order. Roll call, Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Hukin?
Here.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Ms. McGinnis? Here. Mr. Rainierson?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
So you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese, will you do the prayer of the close, please?
Yes, sir. Our Father, we come to you this evening in humility and gratitude for your hand of blessing on our lives and on our city. I pray tonight that you be with all the things on the agenda that are going to be considered. We pray you give wisdom and guidance to those that are making the decisions. And we pray that you be with all of our city's public servants, those that serve on this council, who are works that just met, and just all the different departments in our city. Bless them for their labors. And we pray that you would tonight be with our country, our military, be with our state and city, and all those public servants that are on the front lines as first responders. Give them safety and protection. Thank you for it. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any announcements, presentations, or public comment that is not on the agenda?
I thought that's what moved out there on purpose.
Yeah, anyone for a close? Okay, thank you. We'll move into the consent agenda.
Mayor, move to approve the consent agenda as written. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go into old business.
Move to read old business by title only.
Second.
Second by Mrs. McGinnis. All those in favor to read old business by title only?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Item number 1, Common Council Ordinance number 21-05, approving a resolution of the City of Franklin Planning Commission and annexing certain property contiguous to the Franklin corporate limits to be known as Oakleaf Farms Annexation. Senior Planner Joanna Myers.
Good evening. This is the third reading for the annexation of Oakleaf Farms, which is 88.4 acres. It's located at the northeast corner and northeast corner and southeast corner of what would be State Road 44 and 600 East. Public hearing was held at the last meeting and is ready for your official action.
Okay, so at this time, I would ask the City Council discussion.
Mayor, I'd like to read a statement if it's possible.
Absolutely, sir.
Now,
Yep.
I'm not alone up here. I know that all of our council fellows in the past several weeks certainly have given all of this a lot of thought, and tough decisions sometimes have to be made, and we get to do that tonight. As I've thought about this the last several weeks, I keep coming back. I'm not going to bore you all with my banking experience, but I worked in banking for 42 years. I did some things well, did some things not so well. But I wanted to just share with you just a couple thoughts as I'm reflecting on all of this. When banks fail, regulators monitor a lot of things, and a lot of times banks fail because of a couple of reasons. One, not just these reasons, but these are two that they watch pretty closely. One is if a bank grows too fast. They monitor growth. If you get growing too fast, they'll wrap your knuckles. Another thing that the regulators watch for are what's called concentrations. That's where you might have one sector where you might have loans in one particular sector of the economy, such as the automobile industry or RVs or satellite dishes. When things are booming, a lot of deals come in, but when things go bust, which sometimes happens, those areas that have concentrations, those institutions get hit pretty hard with that. They also watch pretty closely the type of community that you're in. And I will say that for Franklin, they've always felt that this was a strong community based on its diversity. We did not have a large, we weren't highly reliant upon one particular sector. We had agriculture, some industry, a lot of county seat related type of industry, so we had some diversity. One of my biggest lessons, and probably one of my biggest mistakes in my career, was I used to take the position that we'll take whatever the market gives us, meaning that if something's hot in the market and it looked pretty good at the time, why not? Let's just take it all that we can get. Generally, what ended up happening were lopsided portfolios, concentrations, and like a lot of banks, our bank got hit a little bit with some sectors that we had a little concentration in back around 2008. We worked out of that, and things are fine now, but I think we've learned lessons from that. Instead, we learned that we should plan for what we want, what kind of growth we want, and keep an eye on the rate of growth that we have. What we know right now, at least as it relates to this situation, and this is just my opinion only, is that there's things we can control and there's things we can't control. For example, it's no secret, when Mrs. Tresser passed away and Steve got the property, what Steve's long-term plans were for that property. And shouldn't be any surprise, I don't think anybody was surprised when the word got out that he sold that. It's also no surprise that cities want to and they also need to expand over time, given the fact that they need to have a good tax base. There's going to be growth that they need to accommodate, and in order to have mixtures, you want to have residential and commercial and industrial as much as you can. We also know, and this is happening nationally, at least what I can visualize, that there's a lot of warehouses coming up. And we've been party to that. The people that we're working with are good partners, and we've gotten some more warehouses, and of course with that comes more traffic. We all have concerns about what's in our backyards. I live in a neighborhood where we've had all kinds of fights over that at this level over the last couple of years. About the site we're talking about now, I wondered what ultimately is going to be on this site. I'm not sure what is going to happen here. Is it going to be a warehouse? Will it be industrial? MAC has over the years brought us a pretty good variety of things, but again, at this point, don't know for sure what we're going to get. I know it was referenced the other night, but I don't know precisely what's going to happen with the woods back there, whether that will stay or not. We don't want to address that tonight, but also I wonder about buffer zones. We know what's prescribed, but oftentimes or sometimes maybe it's even possible to go beyond what is prescribed and for the benefit of those involved in the surrounding areas. Many things we cannot control. That's sale of real estate, long-term trends. We're a county that's close to Indianapolis. I learned this in banking a lot. There's a lot of things you can't control. It happens. But we can control the type of growth that we have, and we can control the rate in which we do grow. I think a good example of that is what we've seen on the east side, a couple of examples on interchange where the two new hotels are in. We've kind of defined what it is we want, and we've kind of held our ground as to what it's going to be. At the same time, you look across the street, you see an example where basically we took what the market gave us. And sometimes, again, if you get, I think I'll just leave it at that. When I ran for office, I ran as a candidate that I'm pro-growth, provided it is the right kind of growth, responsible growth, redevelopment type of growth, whenever possible. I will just note that with the discussion that's going on right now about the proposals, that we certainly know what people that live out there think, but I'll just add that I'm not actually soliciting, but I've had people come up to me, they have concerns about traffic, about warehouses, how many warehouses do we need, and these are people that live within the city limits, questioning that even though it isn't in their backyard. Personally, I'm not against annexation in the long term. I am concerned about rezoning at this time. Not sure what type of development is going to occur. Got a pretty good idea on the Tresser property and what's going to go out in that area. But I just again want to just say that I think we need to make sure the growth we have is what we want to have, and that we don't bite off too much at this point. We've all gotten a lot of letters and correspondence in the last few days, last few weeks. Probably the one thing that jumped out to me was somebody, and I can't even tell you who it is, just asked the question, couldn't we just tap the brakes a bit? I may not be quoting that correctly, which is something that is something I've thought about in the last few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mayor, I mentioned the other night in the meeting about a potential, I'll call it a buffer zone between the Nyberg addition and I know that what we're voting on tonight does not include that upper section in the north quadrant there that attaches half of Nyberg. But I know that the Sunbeam development has already been annexed. I would hope that the city of Franklin, I know we have guidelines in place for that, but I would hope that we would go above and beyond, if this moves forward, that we address that in a respectful manner for the residents of Nyberg specifically. So that's my 10 cents.
Anybody else?
I think my concern primarily is if we don't do something, then we lose control over what does go in that area if the county moves forward on it. So I guess that is primarily my concern.
Well, we know it's going to be developed.
Right.
Something along in there.
We have no control. We don't approve.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion one way or the other.
Make a motion to approve.
And we're first moving on Common Council Ordinance number 2105, that is the annexation request, correct?
That's it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Taylor. Ms. Rhodes, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin,
Aye.
Mr. Blankenship,
Aye.
Mr. Hukin,
Yes?
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Rainierson,
Yes.
and Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
So the motion passed.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. That gets us to item number 2, Common Council Ordinance number 21-06, and an ordinance approving resolution number 21-02 of the City of Franklin Planning Commission rezoning certain property to industrial light, will be known as the Oakleaf Farms rezoning. Senior Planner Joanna Myers.
Good evening. This was tabled from the last meeting to coincide with annexation. The request is to rezone the property from agricultural to industrial light. This property is, prior to the annexation taking effect, is in our buffer zone and has been under our zoning jurisdiction since 1973. And it's ready for your consideration and action.
And Mr. Hukin, you stick with your statement there. Okay, is there anybody else? So if nobody else has any statement or anything to say, ready for a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. We roll call, please, Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin,
Aye.
Mr. Blankenship,
Aye.
Mr. Hukin,
No?
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McGinnis,
No.
Mr. Rainierson,
No.
and Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
Motion passes 4-3.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
It's up to the mayor.
Sure.
Does that mean that since you annexed that and you changed the zoning, that we get to vote for you guys?
We didn't annex any of your additions.
I mean, you didn't annex any of my addition. I'm on 600, I'm on 600 on the 44. You just annexed it.
It was just annexed property. That was the petition.
Okay, so you can build all this crap in my backyard.
Mayor, we need to move on.
Right.
The answer is no.
Okay, fine. Read it in the paper.
Thanks, sir. Okay, next item, Common Council ordinance number 21-09, establishing a fund for receipt of the coronavirus local recovery funding and appropriation of the same. City Attorney Winter.
Thank you. If you recall last meeting, we introduced this, and so it's ready for your action tonight. The ARP funds are those funds that you're getting from the federal relief, and it's important that we have a fund established so that when that money comes into the clerk treasurer's office, there's some place to deposit those funds. I will tell you that we are continuing to get guidance from both the state and Washington DC as to what those funds can be used for. So if you pass this ordinance, we're simply having the authority to take the money. With regard to where that money is going to go and how it is going to be used, we're still looking for some guidance, and we'll have an official plan. But the clerk treasurer, the mayor, and I thought it was appropriate to have some place. If they write us a check, we want to take however many $100 million in our records. And it's ready for your action.
Can I make a motion to approve? Since I said no, I'll move for Common Council ordinance 2109 to be approved.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Jones. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will go to the next item. Common Council ordinance number 21-10, establishing a fee for the body camera footage and allow the cost of said fee to be deposited into the body camera fund. City Attorney Kendall.
Thank you, sir. You recall this is also ready for your official action. We introduced it at the last meeting. As all of you are aware, we have body cameras now for our men and women within the police department. We will then begin getting requests, I'm sure, for copies of that body camera footage. So we need to establish a fee to respond to that. The statute sets the maximum fee at $150. It is not our intent to charge that amount, but that's the most we could. It's going to be based, quite frankly, on the amount of time that's necessary to download what that body camera footage will be. Also, there's going to be a minimum fee. I believe, I'm sorry, Chief, was it $25 or $50 set forth in the ordinance? If you are inclined to pass this fee, it will then thank you, it's $25. If you are inclined to pass this fee, then what will happen is the clerk treasurer's office will publish a notice that the fee has been adopted. After that, the police department will establish a protocol for if you write in and say, I would like to have a request for a copy of the body camera. We will analyze it to determine whether or not it is a public record that can be disseminated, because there are many restrictions on what can be disseminated, including personal privacy protections and the like. Once we determine that it is something that is to be produced, then we will give the requester a itemized invoice of what we believe the fee will cost. They will then pay it when we comply with the request. So this is the ordinance that allows us to establish that protocol.
Okay, I think we're ready for action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second by Mrs. McGinnis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Move to read new business by title only.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rynearson, to read all under new business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 1, Common Council Budgetary Resolution number 21-04, authorizing a transfer from NVH Restricted Fund 203, $455,445.93, the NVH Fund 201, $500,000, LRS Fund 202, $44,554.07, to Local Road and Bridge Matching Grant Fund 270, Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes, and I explain all that.
As you know.
Bookkeeping, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nothing but anything to shuffle, more paper. We need to match the $1 million that we got in our recent community crossings grant. So, these are funds that are already appropriated. We just want to use them to the community crossing grant fund. And you can act upon this tonight.
Yes, it is ready for your action. It's a resolution.
Motion to approve Resolution 2104.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mrs. Jones. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And we'll go to Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-13.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, the next 2 through 6 items, just for the council's approval, those are for introduction, so there's no official action on them tonight, but we'll read them, make them part of the record.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, number 2, introduction only. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-13, an additional appropriation local road and bridge matching grant fund, capital 2020 Part 2, 270-006-400 in the amount of $221,594. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Okay, now I am gonna throw you a curveball though, because this one is for our community crossings grant that we received in 2020 for the second. Okay, that we're matching it, we got another $400 and some odd $1,000, and so this is our matching. We just got the money, so this is the matching for that one.
If I remember right, didn't we make a second, when we didn't use the
Yes,
first
we
round?
didn't
made
get
a
the
second.
first full
And this is the
million.
second round.
Correct.
Okay, this is introduction only, but if anybody has any questions for Ms. Rhodes, feel free. Hearing none, we will go on to item number 3, which is also introduction only. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-14, an appropriation reduction ordinance MBH Capital 400, $500,000, and LRS Capital 400, $44,554. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Right, and, this is where we got the money to do the $1 million. So now we have to go in and send a reduction for those two because they were already budgeted for, MBH and LRS. So we have to, more paperwork to fill out that we're reducing those to put those into the community crossings.
Any questions? Okay, we'll go on to item number 4, introduction only. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-15, an additional appropriation local road and bridge matching grant fund 400, $1 million. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Right, so after all of those are completed, then we have our $1 million, and then we can put it into the matching grant fund. And we can spend.
Just for the record, in case somebody in the audience doesn't know what we're talking about, the $1 million we got for a grant, the other 3 items was to match that $1 million grant, put it all in one account, so we can write the checks out of the one account.
Correct.
And that's the way the
Because
state
we have to
requires it.
match the $1 million.
We're not creating new money tonight, it's all money that we've already had appropriated.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Any questions on that one? That's also an introduction. Okay, we will go on to number 5. Common Council Ordinance number 21-11, approving resolution number 2021-13, the City of Franklin Planning Commission rezoning certain property to PUD Planned Unit Development to be known as homesteads at Hillview, PUD updated 2021, Senior Planner Joanna Myers.
Good evening. This is for introduction. It is a modification of the existing homesteads at Hillview PUD. Jim Admeyer is here representing the petitioner. This was heard at the April 20th Planning Commission meeting and was forwarded to City Council with a favorable recommendation by an 8-0 vote. It is a request to update that zone, that PUD ordinance to 65 acres, located at the southeast corner of Eastview Drive and Upper Shelbyville Road from PUD to PUD. The difference is within the document itself, there are different standards. If you look at the staff report, it outlines what those differences are. Set for introduction this evening and for public hearing June 7th.
Joey, I am sorry, I don't remember, were the minutes provided to the council so they can be up to speed when we have a public hearing next?
And this one, I don't believe so because they would have still been in draft form.
Right, do the council men and women believe that might be helpful if you saw the minutes from that meeting at the planning commission level? Would that be of assistance? So you can get those to you so you can read them in advance of the public hearing, so you know what the various positions were.
They'll be heard at tomorrow night's planning commission meeting for approval, so we
Yeah.
can definitely do that, and they would be final minutes.
Yeah. So we'll get them through to you and get it to you before the public hearing, so you can hear.
Is it possible to kind of give us like a Reader's Digest version of what's planned there?
Well, we did indicate we did want to have a public hearing on this one, that's why I did it. So because the persons that have that signature there may not be here, this is not set for the public hearing, but we'll get those minutes to you right away. Okay. It's ready this week, after their release.
Okay, the next item is also introduction. Is that correct? Yeah, okay, introduction only. Common Council Ordinance number 21-12, approving resolution 2020-30 of the City of Franklin Planning Commission, amending zoning ordinance Article 3, zoning district, Article 7, development standards, and Article 13, definitions and subdivision control ordinance, Article 6, subdivision standards, to be known as zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance amendments 2021, Senior Planner Joanna Myers.
Good evening. Over the course of the years, we have our zoning ordinance and our subdivision concordance. Industry standards change, the way things are developed change. When we start seeing variance requests repeat themselves that go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, that's when we start acknowledging, something's changed. And maybe we should relook at our ordinances, are they outdated? Is there just something that's different in the industry? So before you is actually proposed 11 amendments to this zoning ordinance and also the subdivision concordance, which are all listed here in the staff report. Just to kind of give you a general idea, when you do look at it, the language at the top is what the existing language is. The language under that is the proposed language, and any of the changes are actually highlighted in yellow. So that way you can go through there and look at all of that. This was heard also at the April 20th Planning Commission meeting and was forwarded with a favorable recommendation by an 8-0 vote and is set for public hearing June 7th.
And as an aside, when you get the minutes that we're going to approve tomorrow night at the planning commission, if you all want to read those minutes, Joanna outlined why we were making these minor changes. In many instances, they just weren't applicable anymore because it had been so long ago. So the minutes will actually outline, we don't have all that in there?
No, it just references.
This, okay.
And some of the modifications to the ordinances are based off of questions that we have gotten about our language. So it's, in some cases, it's just clarification. For example, in this one, we get the question under architectural metal, does that mean standing seam is okay? Well, the answer is no. So we wanted to explicitly outline that because it was a little difficult to figure out. You had to go through the definitions and look back to actually come to that determination. So in some of the instances, it's just a matter of clearing up some of the language or clearing up some of the practice.
We kind of keep a running mental note of the common questions that we get, and then every once in a while just revise them to either be more clear or to bring them up to speed to what's really happening in the real world. This is a compilation.
So they're set for public hearing at the next meeting.
Thank you, Joanna. Next item we can act on tonight, yearly tax abatement compliance report for approval, community development specialist Dana Munson.
Good evening. I have for you tonight C 2021-11 Brookside Chartlight and C 2021-24 Ayers Atomic. Both of these companies met with the Economic Development Commission last Tuesday and did receive a recommendation for approval for their yearly compliance. They were both found to be in substantial compliance. Mr. Taylor, I don't know if you have anything else to add from that meeting.
Nothing, Tom, sorry, I was reading through here. Nothing further.
So, Hexco is talking about 40 employees actual in 2020, and they hired 0.
They did, and they actually came and talked about that. One of the big changes that they made, Hesco was bought by Chartlight 2 years ago, which kind of changed some of what they were doing. They were primarily so focused on the piping industry and welding and sending their guys out to work on all of these fields and things like that. They really changed when they became a part of Chartlight, and they're now doing vaporization. They are now expanding out of just oil and gas, the oil and gas industries. They're actually working with the space industry, tech industry. Some of their clients, they now are clients with NASA, Jeff Bezos' company, Blue X, I think is what it's called now. Some of these different things. So they're expanding what they're doing. Obviously, COVID affected them greatly. One example that he gave was when they sent some of their guys out to work on this equipment, a 2-day job would actually turn into a 28-day job because of last year. You would fly somebody out, they would have 14 days quarantine, they would spend 2 days on the job, they would fly back, have 14 days quarantine. Really kind of slowed down what the work that they were able to do. So by changing into this new sector, changing into this vaporization with Chartlight, it's going to greatly expand their abilities. They've already seen kind of the beginnings of a rebound. They did tell us that they would really, their goal was to do 15 this year. Their biggest issue, which it should be no secret to anyone, is they're struggling to find workers. He told us point blank, if you get the resources, they're hiring today. He told us that they hired 2 kids, 2 young men straight out of high school, $18 an hour is what their starting wage. These 2 young men had 0 skills, literally straight out of high school, nothing but a high school education. He said they're 2 of his best guys on the floor now. And that's exactly what they're willing to do. So they're doing their best that they can with what they have, but I think that they're, between COVID and the extremely low unemployment, trying to find the right people, they're kind of in the same position everybody else is. I don't know, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, they're in a big transition from service industry to more, they've got some prototypes and things that they're actually going to start doing some manufacturing within there now. So it's, so they're just, and like everybody company came to us, said, we can't find people who want to work. We're willing to pay them $18, $20 an hour if you have a high school diploma. You know, and we will train you and do everything for you. We'll teach you how to weld, and you can move right on up the ladder. They do a lot with aluminum manufacturing, so it's just a matter of now that they've shifted gears with the changeovers from Chartlight to the buying up company. So now there's waiting to find people.
Anybody else?
Dana, are you looking for a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
So you guys found them in substantial compliance?
Yeah, we got on substantial compliance. They did come in and talk to us and gave us a good reason why they are where they're at and what they do, different rollovers. I think in the future they've got the right irons in the fire to grow and get back in the right direction.
It's like they're in their last year of personal property abatement, correct?
Correct.
And what, 2 years left on their tenure?
I think so. I think it's either 2 or 3.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the yearly tax abatement compliance reports.
I'll give that second to Sean. So, Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana. We do not have any other business, so that gets us to the council comments. I will start with Sean.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Nothing.
Ann.
Just glad to see that the festivals are coming back around this summer, so it'll be fun.
Mrs. Jones.
Nothing tonight?
Mr. Buchan.
Just a reminder that I will be out of the area on the next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Blankenship.
No comments, Mayor.
Mr. Austin.
Uh,
Reverse alphabet order.
No, hey, that's kind of like the last. That's the first. Kirby, thank you for your team. I was at the tail end of the Board of Works meeting tonight about moving the traffic off the interstate. Good call and good coordination, getting that done because it has been very dangerous, continues to be, but with what you guys are doing, I've noticed in the last, I think, 48 hours, where traffic's being stopped and traffic's being blown off there. So that's a very good call, and keep up the good work. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready for Ms. Grady. anything?
No, I do not.
Ms. Rhodes?
No, sir.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Austin, so moved. All those in favor?
All right.